Hello, everyone. My name is Cindy Lansford, and I am a member of Alpha Chapter of Phi Beta Mu in Texas. I am also on the Phi Beta Mu International Board, and that is the organization that is behind these composer interviews that we are calling Music and Minds Chats with Composers. Today, I'm talking to Carol Brittin Chamnbers, and if you teach in a school band program of any age level, I am pretty sure that you know Carol's music. Her works are everywhere and serve many skill levels as well as different types of ensembles. Welcome, Carol. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Cindy. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm excited.
Sure, of course. Listen, this was to me a no-brainer because your music is literally everywhere. So tell us today where you're coming to us from.
Oh, I live in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay, some of the time. Now tell us where you live the other part of the time.
Oh, yeah, my other favorite place. We do have a house over in Taos, New Mexico, which is northern New Mexico, the Rockies, almost in Colorado, and north of Santa Fe, which
Right, right.
which
And I ask that for everybody else's knowledge because we just bought a house in Santa Fe. Carol has had her house in Taos longer than we've had ours in Santa Fe, but it's so beautiful there. And I know you love being there.
yeah, my
Yeah.
favorite place on earth. Yeah.
Well, understandably. Okay, well, I have known you for a while. I've known your family for longer than I've known you. But just for the audience here, tell us about where you grew up and your family, because that's a very important part, I know, of how you got to be where you are right now.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it sure is. I grew up in Lubbock, Texas, which is West Texas, Northwest Texas. If you Texas, as we know, is a big state, and there are lots of different parts of it. Yeah, so I was born and raised there, and my parents were both professors at Texas Tech University, which is a really large university there. And yeah, so I grew up with them, academia, and also I was born into a family of musicians. Everybody played instruments, and my dad, in fact, was the French horn professor at Texas Tech University for almost 40 years.
A long time.
A long time, a long time. And like I said, my mom was also a professor. She was over in food nutrition, and she was a huge researcher and traveler all over the world because she was very interested in world cultures of food. And
Mhm.
yeah, so that's kind of what I, grew up that setting.
Well,
And
just because I went to Texas Tech and I know the public schools, tell me where you went to, did your first band, like junior high and then high school.
oh yeah, that's right. You would know the schools there. My junior high was Mackenzie Junior High, and then I went to
Who was
Cornell.
the band director at Mackenzie then?
Well, we had some different ones, but at one point I had, I think probably my last year there, we had Mother Bartley. Do you remember?
Really?
Yes,
Oh, yes,
Gary
yes.
Bartley, and we all called
Hmm.
him Mother Bartley because
Hmm.
at Texas Tech band camp he was
But
always
he sure was. He
our
sure
man in
was.
charge. Yeah,
Hmm.
so he was my director there,
Hmm.
um, and yeah, and then at Coronado, it was Phil Anthony
I
was
student taught with him.
yeah, he was a director,
Yeah,
and I think it was my first year at Coronado. That's when Anthony Gibson came onto the team also.
that's
So
awesome.
there,
That's awesome. So then when you went to Tech, who was the ensemble director then?
well, it was James Sudduth,
Yeah.
Jim Sudduth, as we called him, and I had also gone to high school with his son, who is a professional oboe player, Jason.
Hmm.
So we were
Hmm.
really good friends, and my older brother, was friends with the other son, Toby.
Hmm.
So yeah, I just loved that family, and I loved playing under Mr. Sudduth. He was, um, I think tons of us would agree, he was just one of the most musical
Yeah.
being ever born, and just a musical genius, and conducting as well. And he exposed all of us to just such great literature and a variety of literature. And yeah, he died way too soon, but
Way too soon.
I really,
I taught band camp for almost 20 years during that time, and I was so grateful to get to be around him. And so I agree, he died way too soon. But okay, so of all of these people, would you say it was an equal influence on your career choice, or was there somebody that really sparked you to go into to get into the composition part?
Oh, oh gosh. Well, I mean, all of these were, all these people were influencers. The other one I didn't mention was probably the first one, really. Well, besides my parents, but was my piano teacher, and that was Mr. Anthony's wife.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Uh-huh.
I'm a high school band director, but his wife, Pat Anthony, and I studied with her for 13 years. So I started with her when I was really little, and I mean, she lived right by the elementary school, so I just after school I'd go by her house, and her daughter was one of my best friends. And she would have us come not only once a week for a lesson, but she would have us come on another day for a theory class, music theory. So I started music theory when I was 6, and
Okay.
yeah, and I figured it out intervals by the time I was like in third grade, and then I realized I could hear anything and just write it down.
Hmm.
For me, it was intervals. We weren't doing solfege or anything yet. Back then I wasn't. I didn't do that till college. But anyway, so I just realized early on that was kind of my thing. And I was really serious about piano. I almost became a piano major, as some
Hmm.
have heard me
Well,
say.
these are the kind of interesting things that I love to
Yeah.
find out in interviews because it's the things that not everybody knows.
Oh,
And
sure.
so when you graduated from college, did you start composing immediately or did you do, because you did teach in public schools, yes?
Yep. Yeah, I taught quite a few years. I taught middle school band, I taught high school band, really got into the marching arts and all of that. So, yeah, the other part is, my dad was also one of the band directors at Tech. I mean, there was no way I was not going to be in band. So I loved piano. I started that first, but then, when it came
Hmm.
time for band, I chose trumpet, and I got really serious about that too. So I loved playing and loved performing. I was fortunate enough to be an all-stater 3 times, and my senior year, I was first chair all-state trumpet in the all-state Texas band.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So, so the reason I'm telling you that is, and I did some writing when I was young. I just loved, like, to me, just being on the piano bench and writing. I entered like my first composition contest when I was in fourth grade. Again, giving credit to my piano teacher. I didn't even know what those were, but I think I won on some state level. I had to go to Austin and like perform. It was called the Fun Machine and stuff.
I
And
love
so
that.
yeah, but I wanted to be a band director and I wanted to play. I was really into performance, and then
Hmm.
trumpet became more the focus. But yeah, so my undergrad was, I got it at Texas Tech University, was
Hmm.
music education.
Hmm.
That was partly advice from my dad as well. He had kind of done that route. He's like, you can go to grad school and keep studying your instrument if you want. And so I was like, well, I think I'll do that too. It worked out for you, so I think I'll do that. And so then I went straight to Northwestern University to get my master's in trumpet performance. So I really wanted to go up and study with all the Chicago symphony players. And that was all of that was just such a growing period in my life. There's nothing like going to a new place, a new city. I mean, Chicago
Hmm.
was way different than Lubbock, but going to a new city,
Yes.
yeah, and just different than Texas, but going and just realizing, wow, there are so many talented musicians out here in the world, and so you just grow. You can't, you know, you're just gonna grow and or die, I guess. I don't know.
Did
And so,
you take advantage of all the performance opportunities or concerts that you could attend when you were in Chicago?
oh, of course, yeah,
I can only imagine.
we would get up. We were up there in Evanston, about 20 miles north, but we
Hmm.
would just either hop on the train or we'd all pile into somebody's car because you could park in the garage just right under, Orchestra Hall. So
Uh-huh.
we would get cheap student tickets. So we'd go there all the time, and at the Millar Chapel, there were always just so many great musicians playing all the time. So it was amazing. Yeah.
College can be the best time of your life.
I, I, yes, I would agree
At
100%.
least before all the responsibilities set in and everything. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. So when you got through with that, where did you have your first job teaching and stuff?
Yeah, so then I wanted to come back. I thought, well, I think I want to go back to Texas and teach just because, for one thing, I knew, Texas very much supports music education.
Hmm.
But I also had a lot of connections. I had a lot of friends that were starting to teach and everything. So I was looking, I didn't necessarily want to go back to Lubbock just because I wanted to experience other places. It's a big world out there. And so I wanted to go try different things. I had a lot of friends and connections in San Antonio, here in San Antonio, but also Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth. I was putting feelers out everywhere. But yeah, so I got hired. My first job was at Ed White Middle School in San Antonio. It's
Mm-hmm.
Northeast District, and that was great. And then I went after that. I went to high school, Robert E. Lee High School. Now it's called
Mm-hmm.
Legacy of Educational Excellence, um, and it's also in the Northeast District. And so that's when I was teaching with a really cool team. So it was Mark Chambers, who, yes, then we got married eventually. But yeah, he was just such a head director with such vision and
He
really,
was.
yeah,
Yeah,
really
was. Hmm.
take that school and just what it
Right.
what we developed that program into. It was so neat. And then there was another fellow working with us who's also passed away now, but he was an incredible clarinet player. His name was Joe Masseron. So we were this little tight three, team, and we were figuring out marching band and trying to get, learn from mentors, like you
Right.
do. And so,
Well, that's funny that you talk about that team because I tell young people that I work with, when you have the right team. And you're
mhm.
lucky if you have it once in your life.
Oh gosh.
I mean, and if you get it twice, then that's really exceptional. But when everything just works,
Oh gosh. Yeah.
it's
I
so
agree.
much fun.
And and it was the kind of thing we were always in each other's rehearsals. And here I was more of a brass person. Joe was this woodwind expert. So it was just so fun to learn from each other. And then we were brand new at the whole marching band thing. So I have so many funny stories about teaching fundamentals for the first time. And oh my gosh, it was so fun. And then after that, we went over and were able to we opened up Bush Middle School in the following year. Ronald Reagan High School opened.
Hmm.
That was feeders. And so we loved that because Joe and I were at the middle school and Mark was at the high school, but we went to every marching practice too. So, but we were really doing a 6 through 12 program, this cohesive program. We got to sit down
You
these,
mean like it really should be?
yeah,
Yes,
and we got to sit
because
down
it
and
works.
and decide, hey, what do we all think we want our beginners to do
Right.
at the end of the year when they are coming into the high school, when they leave high school, what are the skills we want them to know? It was so fun to plan all that and be on the same, page with the,
It's just so good for the kids. It
yeah.
just really is. So when did you start doing some writing? Did you write for your bands then? Or
So that's a great segue because it was sort of around that time when, honestly, we were not getting our marching band music on time. Uh, and so I was like, you know what? I think I can, oops, sorry, I hit my keyboard. I think I can write that ballad, honestly, tonight. Let me just give it a stab. So I
yeah.
started first main writing really was for Reagan High School. And then we had this amazing percussionist teacher with us, and he was so creative, and his name is Aaron Guidry, and a lot of people know him. So then we kind of started doing it together, and it was so fun, and then he went on, and he's in such a creative force in the Cirque du Soleil world over in Las Vegas. Uh,
Really? How
yeah,
fun.
oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
been working for a long time, but he is again one of those just phenomenal musicians.
Hmm.
And so we started out designing shows together. So really, my first writing professionally was started out with arranging, and I think that's really how I learned how to write for bands. And then pretty soon, that's why I started my company, really, Aspenwood Music, because I started having shows that I could put on my website, and then other people throughout the state and country started asking me, "Hey, will you write my show? Will you write my show?" So that kind of the marching part just kind of exploded.
So your first writing was really for marching band.
Yes, yeah.
I
Um,
had no idea. I learned something new.
Yeah, and then I would write some other things, and then that's still a huge part. That's half of my year is
Yes.
is writing marching shows. Still,
Hmm.
I've always been passionate about it, and I just love it. And a little bit after that time, then I started teaching at Texas Lutheran University. So I was not teaching public school anymore,
Hmm.
and I wore a lot of hats there because it's a small private liberal arts college, but with
Hmm.
really had a big focus of music education. And I was working with some great colleagues there. But I was able to teach all kinds of cool things like beginning band methods and secondary methods and aural skills. And I was the trumpet teacher and then orchestration. And so I was getting to write this. And that's when I started devoting some more time finally to getting concert works written. So it was soon
That's
after.
so interesting.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So then I started kind of building them both. And now about half my year is spent writing concert and half is marching. So.
And when did you become a full-time composer?
Yeah, so
Or I should say composer clinician because you are everywhere.
yeah, and that's a component I didn't necessarily know was going to be so much part of the picture, but
But
that's
isn't it fun?
yes, and it's well, and it's so interesting traveling around all over the country.
Yes.
So and just seeing how programs are all over the place. You know, it's just fascinating to see how this setup is and how this setup is, and there's so many different ones.
Hmm.
And, and
Well, so many people, I don't know if you can hear my phone, but it's ringing. It's not supposed to be. So many people focus on the differences in between programs in different parts of the country. And, you know, what I find is, and I know I don't travel as much as you do, especially anymore, but when I did, this is what I found. Kids are kids are kids. And it doesn't really matter. They may start differently or, you know, it may be a different setup, but it just doesn't matter. You take them where they are
exactly. Yep.
and move on. So that's exciting. Well, so right now you think you're about half and half of concert and marching band. So let's talk about the concert band stuff first, and then we'll talk about the marching band. You feel like that you're like if this is the scale of difficulty, that you're in the middle, a little bit more on the easy side, or a little bit more on the difficult side, or just really spread all over.
Oh, you're talking about concert band?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say spread all over. I I try to because really I just write on commission only now because there's that many, and so I try to. I've learned now try to
Hmm.
spread that out. So in other words, the variety for what I'm
Right.
doing, and so because it's real easy to just try to say yes to everything. I'm kind of that kind of person anyway, so I try to people please. But at some point I realized, whoa, this is too many on my plate. This is just too many. And, you know, and then my publishers gave me some really wise advice too a few years ago. It's just like, you don't want to write 7 grade 3s in 1 year because not only are you in a way competing, you know, you want people to buy your music with other composers, but you're really competing with yourself.
Yourself.
Yeah, because next summer when you know maybe it's July when band directors get their new budget or able to spend or they go to their summer convention or whatever, maybe they're able to buy one new grade 3 for that next year. So which one of your 7 are they gonna, you know? So I started learning how to, hey, I'm gonna do a couple grade 3s, couple grade 2s, couple of 4, a 5, if somebody wants a 5, you know, and a couple grade 1s. And so we kind of call that the rainbow. And so that helped
I
me a
love
lot.
that. That's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I'm kind of full, then some, you know, requests, I'm like, well, can we do the next year? Now they're going into, I guess, 2027, 2028. So it's like, you know, we can put it on the schedule for, you know, or maybe I can squeeze this in because, you know, sometimes something comes along where someone passes away and man, some
You
of those
want
are more timely than
Right.
other.
And you want to be able to help those people with
Yeah.
what they want. So do you feel like that your public school teaching or even your college teaching really plays a big influence on what you write or how you write? How has that affected it?
Oh gosh, sure. Well, especially for the younger grade levels, I'm just
Right.
always, yes, I'm on some of the harder tunes. It's you have more freedom, and there aren't so many restrictions. And oh, this is a university or a professional group that's going to play this anyway. They can do whatever.
Right.
But yeah, but of course we have some more restrictions, and thankfully there are some publisher guidelines too. I mean, if you kind of stay within those, the reason those exist is so there's some consistency, and so that directors can trust. Hey, when this says grade 2 on it. I know what to expect. I know that ranges are going to be where grade 2 should kind of be.
Hmm.
You know, what are clarinets doing or not doing in terms of going back and forth over the break? I mean, there's all those kinds of things. So I always start out. I mean, occasionally it might shift a little, maybe, but usually I start out almost always knowing what the grade level is before I even start writing the piece.
Hmm.
Then I know also what length am I talking about. That's going to shape the form that I
Right.
decide to do, but also the melodies. Like, what key am I going to put this in so that you know clarinets aren't going back and forth over the break? You know that really affects. Concert F sometimes gives you a lot more problems than E flat because of that reason. And so that's why that's one reason you see things in these keys sometimes. But yeah, so definitely I'm sensitive to what can they do? What can low brass do? But what's something cool maybe that I could put in this piece that maybe
For low brass, so they have something good to do.
yeah, first of all the low brass and low reeds, how boring if they only get to play whole notes all the time or quarters, whatever. So it's like, can we at least give them some dotted quarters? If it's for that level, we can do that. And then I learned really very soon that, you can do all kinds of things that are like perceived syncopation with combinations of eighth notes and eighth rest. You can't trick it up too much, but there are patterns, in Texas, but wherever you are, beginners, hopefully they're counting and clapping combinations of these rhythms. So if it's on one pitch, they can do that. So yeah, I'm always trying to think about what is something maybe different I could put in this piece, or something that might be kind of a little bit of a challenge, but perhaps it's repetitive enough in the piece so they're going to get it. Or, you just think about, are we involving lots of notes or just on one pitch? Because that's different. So there are ways to write interesting things. The lower grade levels are definitely the hardest, trying not to repeat yourself, trying not to repeat that same rhythm patterns that everybody does, So yeah, but
Well,
definitely
when people pick your music, I say this: it's going to sound good. The ensemble is going to sound good because it's written well, and so that's why one of the reasons I asked that question. So that really influence it, and of course it does. Now tell me about percussion, because percussion has changed a lot over the years, especially since whenever I started teaching. Okay. So do you try to write for larger percussion sections, and does that work out? We know it works in the state of Texas. Does it work outside of the state of Texas?
I think yes. I think it depends, and it's not always going to be the same. So sometimes usually I mainly am trying to follow the wishes of whoever commissioned it. So that's the main thing, and they might be from another state, and they might have a huge percussion section. So then sometimes I have to calm that down and say, hey, well, for this grade level, writing 8 different percussion parts for a grade 1.5 is a lot of, and I'll just try to tell them a lot of bands are not going to be able to do that. But so then you can get into things, well, maybe we have some optional parts, know. So it's like, if you've got this, or like I just wrote one that's going to be at Midwest, and they had a lot of percussion. They wanted that. And I said, well, some of these are going to be optional, but also it's things where in the future, like, because it's got some unique things like whirly tubes, where some wind players could pick those up and start doing it. Like if you have a smaller section. So sometimes you kind of think about, okay, how could this work in the future for everyone? But yeah, I think a lot of people did get tired though of, I feel the same way you did when I was trying to pick music sometimes. Well, it's got a snare drum and a bass drum and a triangle. Well, could the triangle...
And what am I supposed to do with all those other kids?
I know. Even if you have 5 kids back there, and really, that second percussion part, that's the triangle, at some point in the piece, couldn't that kid have picked up a tambourine or something,
Right.
Give them something to do. So yeah, I put a lot of thought in my percussion and trying to sort it out where the music that they have on their stand, those are the, they don't have to pop back and forth between different pieces of music. That's very, to me, old school and very annoying when you're a director. That's when, I don't know, y'all figure this out. Go in the other room and figure this out. You can't do that. But yeah, and I think it's very interesting to have some more of these colors and those kinds of things. And it's fun when I hear something unique that someone else does. It's like, oh, that's a new sound. I didn't know you could do that on the shells of the drum, or just different things.
It makes the music sound so special,
Yeah.
So are there any composers that you looked to that you feel like have had a really big influence on you, or just even a little influence on you?
Oh, well, yes. Yeah, for sure. And I'm, some of these were again, I was really into performance and all kinds of things. And so, a lot of people maybe have heard me say these before, so, but it really is true. The first one who had the biggest influence was Aaron Copland for me. And part of that was up there at that cabin, because where we have our Taos house, a couple doors down, my parents had a cabin, and they got that when I was really little. And we didn't have a TV or even a telephone or anything, but we did have a record player. And so I would sit there and just listen. And my dad had these awesome recordings of, he was playing on some of them, of like the New York Philharmonic. He was playing on some of these recordings. And one of the first ones I remember was Appalachian Spring. And it was just one of the most gorgeous and cool things I'd ever heard because of the variety in there and the variety of colors. And that's when I started to become aware of the different colors in the orchestra, the timbres. And so I just thought that was so interesting because, again, at that point in my life, I was playing piano, and that's one color. And so this was like, wow. And I would go hear my dad play in symphony concerts. But anyway, so Copeland, gosh, I just give him so much credit, and I just love nature and stuff anyway. And the way he made me feel, his music is incredible, but even what he does with woodwinds and brass, and it's just incredible. But some others certainly are Percy Grainger. That's another one, especially as I got into starting to play more Grainger, and because this stuff is hard, but starting to get out of my little trumpet space and starting to be aware of what's going on in the rest of the group. And because his writing for woodwinds, I think, is so cool. So Grainger, I was just like, wow, I've never heard saxes, the entire sax section, not just altos.
Saxophones love Grainger.
I know. And I was aware, I was like, I didn't know that could sound so neat, or what he's doing with bassoons and everything. So that was very fun for me to start to just pay attention more. And Leonard Bernstein is another one. And I think it's just, I don't know, like, West Side Story is just one of my favorites ever.
Yeah.
It's so much dance-like music, and you can probably tell by a lot of the things I've written. I just love, that's one of the styles I like writing, different kinds of dances.
Yeah, well, now that you've said that, I'm going to go and listen to your music again, with a different perspective, which is really cool. So let's switch over to marching really quickly, because that's a big part of your writing. And so how were you involved when you were growing up in the drum corps scene at all?
So actually, I didn't. I never marched drum corps.
Okay.
I liked watching it and stuff. Cavaliers were usually my favorite
Mine too.
Yeah, and I just love, and so I'd watch it and stuff, and I thought it was neat. I loved being in marching band. As a family, we traveled a lot during the summer because as university professors, they maybe taught one summer session, but often there would be another one. And they were very much wanted us to travel. Plus, we were going to visit relatives that lived everywhere else, but Texas, so Florida. We were big road trippers, but they wanted to take us to Europe and things like that. And so that's when we could go, was the summer. And so really that was partly it. And then also I loved going to band camps. Texas Tech band camp, I went every year. I remember back when it was 2 weeks long.
Yes, I do.
That was one of the funnest moments every summer for me. Oh my goodness, we had a dance every night. It was just so much fun.
Yeah, it was fun in every way. It really was. So
anyway, yeah. So I didn't actually march drum corps, but I liked it.
But you just really got involved in marching band when you started teaching high school then.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess, you start to, hopefully, yeah, that's kind of what I call the sweet spot when you start to learn in life, what is your passion, but also what are you good at? And when those kind of align, that's what I call the sweet spot. And so I thought it was neat when I started learning, hey, I could write for this, and I really enjoyed that. And then same thing with concert. I mean, I was like, I know I'm gonna start writing concert stuff soon here whenever I get a second. And I'm not quite as busy of a band director. That helped, I think. You had asked earlier, when did I become full-time? Because I was teaching a lot, even at TLU, for years and years and years. And so it wasn't like a light switch, just switch, like, hey, today I'm just going to do this. It was a gradual change. So as I started getting more requests, especially then concert band commissions and so on, more requests coming in, and realized you can make a living. Then I started to decrease gradually my teaching roles, so I could write more. And yeah, and I'm still doing a little bit of composition stuff with TLU, and I'm their composer in residence. But mostly, yeah, it's writing.
So tell me do you travel to like some of the big marching things, BOA, Grand Nats, which I went to for the first time last year, and all that kind of stuff? Do you do all that?
Yeah. And, of course, one of our biggest regionals, BOA regionals, is here, the San Antonio regional. So that's very convenient for me. When early on, I would travel a little bit more to go up to maybe I'd go up to Dallas Fort Worth and Austin and stuff. I don't do quite as much as that as I was, just because I'm kind of now booked doing like next weekend or this in a few days I'll be going to Washington State for another more of a concert band kind of festival thing.
Hmm.
So there's just more of that, and so I kind of have to pick and choose. Most years I do go to Grand Nationals. Just to, again, it's kind of cool to you want to stay current too, and just see what's going on. And then when I have groups up there, trying to support them and everything. So yeah.
So your marching shows that you write are from all over then?
Yes, most of them are Texas. Most of
Uh-huh.
them are Texas. But yeah, there's some groups from, I've got some in Illinois and, different places and
That's exciting.
Oklahoma,
Yeah, well, not every part of the country does marching band quite as well. They can't because of the weather. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
but California, yeah, lots of groups there. Florida, it's just really, there's, Indiana, of course, a big band state.
yes, yeah, that's exciting. Um, so I don't even remember what I was going to ask because I've been distracted. But oh yes, so for people who are wanting to become composers, what
Mhm.
advice do you have?
Yeah, so I think one thing, well, the first advice I like to give, honestly, is for composers to, I mean, it's cool to experiment with like new ideas and things, but don't forget about just the basics of being able to create a beautiful melody. And I know that sounds so simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's like with I don't know, I'm very melody driven. Another composer, of course, that always influenced me was John Williams. And that's what, you say any of his scores from, from a movie or whatever, Midway March, whatever, and you immediately, the cool tune pops into your head, So melodies and counter melodies. And there's a little bit of logic to that. I mean, but a lot of times it's just sing it though. And does it feel logical? Does it have this nice rise and then this fall or, something that makes sense? So that's the first thing is don't forget that it is music. And so, but I think people sometimes just start trying to get too gimmicky or tricky or with things. It's like, but I love it when kids leave the band hall and they're like singing it, or a director will write me and they're like, hey, these kids won't quit singing this tune. Or when they come in and they're supposed to be warming
Mission
up,
accomplished.
they're supposed to come in and warm up correctly, and they're playing
Right.
one of them. I'm like, yes. I'm like, sorry, but I said my job is done. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so that's one piece of advice. But after that, I would also say, if you're really kind of new at writing, I would suggest writing something for your own instrument. If you're a clarinet player, write something for clarinet, write a duet or a trio or something, because you know that instrument. And so then you're learning about melody and some harmony, maybe a bass line, but it's with an instrument that percussion, write a cool percussion ensemble. Also, don't start too big at first. That's a suggestion I give. I think one of the worst things you can do when you're just going to start out is go open a full score with all the orchestral instruments that exist. And then if you don't really understand yet about even what transposition is, or, what are you going to do with that? Or and learning a little bit about scoring, just, they're families of instruments. So if you take the strings, which really don't have much in transposition,
Mhm.
who takes the soprano, alto? Everybody has their kind of function. Well, same with the brass family, same with the woodwind family. And so if you kind of learn to do one at a time, this is what we would do in the orchestration class that I would teach. You start with a smaller group and they learn how to do that and where things function. And then at some point, if you're really going to get serious about writing for a certain type of ensemble, then you really do start needing to learn your craft in terms of you need to start understanding things like transposition, ranges, and then also just you don't have to be a theory professor or anything, but anything like that, but understanding at least how to spell basic chords correctly. So you eliminate, so you're avoiding wrong notes and things that aren't going to sound good. So yeah, that's the advice. But save everything you do, because maybe I don't know what I'm doing with this, but I'll save it and that I can use that in another project later.
That's right. Yeah, there you go. That's great. Well, you are young and you already have accolades like crazy. Where do you see your future?
I don't know.
What do you see in your future, I should say.
Well, right now I've got a lot of projects on my plate and some deadlines.
Do you have any aspirations for doing orchestral stuff?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I do some orchestral. I do more band, but yeah, I've got some orchestral works written, some choral, some vocal. Some of those were more specific projects that came along and all that. Um, I think it would be fun at some point to, start writing some game music, maybe if there's time for that, but also certainly in film. But that's just such a whole uh, another animal. And right now, my whole schedule is just really jam packed. So maybe a goal would be for me to sort of, try not to overcommit too much with things. Well, to leave some creative space for some other possibilities, maybe.
It's easier said than done.
Yes, and also when you have, well, now I only have two kids in college because one just graduated. But the last couple of years we've had three kids in college, and so
Now, do you have any children that are in music?
um, they're not. Well, they all did music and they all did band. Two really good horn players, and my youngest was a trumpet player, and one was starting out as a music major, but he has since changed. He's doing something different. My oldest daughter, she's actually in the game industry. She's a producer for games, and she had gone to USC film school, and she was learning all about 3D animation and all this kind of stuff. And then now her first job is actually working on these games. So that's very, very exciting. So that's very cool. And
Those
then
games need music.
I know, right? I'm like, hey, mom's over here. No,
I know somebody that does that.
exactly. Yeah, and then my youngest is at NYU and she's studying communications. So yeah, they're all kind of doing different things for their career, but they were all heavily involved in music. Yeah.
It's so hard to, look into the future and know what's going to be possible
Hmm.
in the next 10, 20, 30 years. But, I guess as long as you can stay current with the technology, which is a big deal. Yeah, that's a
Yes.
really big deal of it all. So, well, listen, I know I'm not sure how long that this interview project will continue, but if it does, this I'm sure will be only part one of part two for you. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience before we sign off, before my sound cuts out one more time?
Oh gosh, no, Cindy. I just wish everybody the best, and remember we're all in this together. Honestly, that's another thing I love about going around and traveling around is meeting directors from just everywhere and again seeing what they're doing with their students. And you and I both know the pressures and just teaching and going to school teaching every day, there's so many pressures, but if we can just remember we are all in this together, and the end is, are we not everybody is going to go major in music and it's not going to be their career. It doesn't have to, but can we at least help develop an appreciation of what it is, just like other things, art and science. And the world is a big world and there's so much to learn and experience. um, so yeah, I don't know, just trying to be encouraging and when we're all trying to do what we do. But I'm so honored that you asked me to
Well,
join you.
I do
you know
not walk into a band hall anywhere that there's not one piece of your music in a folder, and
oh,
that's kind of fun. And so, are we going to hear from you and some of your music at Midwest? I'm sure we are.
yes, yes, I think there are about six groups and another one doing a presentation with some, yeah, so and a couple of brand new ones that are gonna
That's exciting.
premiere. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Midwest for sure.
Well, for sure. Well, if I don't see you in person before then, I'll see you there for sure. But thank you so much. And I'll, to those people who are watching, I apologize for the splices and the, I'm not sure what happened with the technology, but it's been wonderful talking to you. And we will see you soon. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.